can start with an interview.
Okay. Well, so we're trying. This is the first. No, this is the second station science talk that we're trying to do, like TED Talks, I guess. Mostly for the live streaming and recording for a YouTube channel. So thanks to everyone for coming. And our guest today is wildlife veterinarian Marta.
Hello. Thanks.
Who is gonna tell us some fun facts about the whales and answer questions.
Hopefully fun.
So we will start off with a presentation and then an interview, or interview and then a presentation and questions.
I can. Yeah.
All right.
Let's do an interview.
Okay, so
I'll interview you too.
That wasn't the agreement.
No. God damn. Okay.
Okay, we'll start off. Why don't you tell everyone, introduce yourself to everyone, please. Tell us your background and how you ended up here.
Oh, damn. Good questions. Laura made a really good video for Instagram where I'm basically saying I'm a veterinarian, so I went to vet school. That's why you probably guys will see some parts of the talk are maybe, hopefully not very technical, but I really like anatomy, and that's, I guess, what I wrote my thesis about in marine mammals. So just mostly aquatic wildlife, but marine mammals, it's big enough of a theme, that's for sure. We have the whales, and we will talk a little bit about that too. So back in Spain, I was working with like marine animals rehabilitation, so more rescue and release. And then a little bit of research on their behavior and acoustics, so how they communicate. And yeah, and I got here kind of following their migration, because we often talk about how animals migrate and how they navigate and how they find resources and why are they here. These whales a lot come from where I'm coming, like British Columbia. I'm from Spain, but I'm coming from driving from up there where I was researching this. Most of them are the same humpback whales. So yeah, we kind of migrated down. And that's how I found the Baja Station, because I wanted to see these whales in their mating grounds. And it's pretty amazing how close we can see them here. So that's how I got here.
Nice, thank you. And so what, after arriving here, what kind of stands out in your experience of watching whales all around the world? What's it like watching whales here? Yeah,
for sure, the babies. I don't think I've ever seen baby whales ever like this tiny. I've seen juveniles and very recent calves, but I've done necropsies, sadly, because in Europe there's a lot of neonatal, is that how you say, like mortality? Like a lot of babies don't survive because of acoustic pollution and overfishing and all the threats we already know about. But here there's not so many of those, so I feel like there's a lot of babies, and that's why the humpbacks in particular come here to to raise them, to nurture them, to give birth.
Thank you. So I guess you've been doing some research. We get a lot of questions from people all the time about the whales, different questions. So we try and collect all these questions together and get some answers. So perhaps next you'd like to do your presentation, and then we can take questions from everyone afterwards.
Perfect. Awesome. So in the presentation itself, I already put some of the questions I asked in the cafe, like to the general people, like what do you want to know about whales? What's something maybe you think it's silly, but probably other people are also wondering. And I got some amazing questions that actually have like a very scientific like background to it. Like you think it's something like stupid or basic, but yeah, whales have been evolving to be what we're seeing here today for a long time. So
can I add some? I'd like to add here that often, the answers to these whale questions are, I don't know, feeling, but we've asked Marta in this case as a scientist to not just Google or ChatGPT the question, but to go into the scientific papers that are out there to try and get the most scientifically verified answers to these questions. So let's hear what she found.
For sure. And I think that's also, thank you for bringing it up, because I think it's something important. Like I feel like sometimes we lose a little hope in science, or it looks really far away, like all these papers, who's gonna read them, like who has time to read these long papers and understand these like complicated graphs and stuff. But there's a lot behind what and the researchers here, especially in Mexico. There's a couple universities and groups that are definitely studying these whales. But just in general, marine wildlife, you guys have to imagine how hard it is to monitor them and to actually follow these animals and understand them, because they live in the ocean. That's an environment we don't really, all we know about these whales, like the big question, why are they jumping? It's just our view from here. Like we just see when they go out and make these crazy jumps and behaviors. And that's just like a little tiny percentage that we as humans can see of these whales from our land terrestrial environment. So it's like when they go out, but the rest of their lives, so like 97% of their lives is underwater. So that's why like bioacoustics and also these kind of encounters give us so much information about all this ecology and behavior. So yeah, let's just jump into the... Yeah, this is gonna go away, like, right, yeah. It was just the video. It was, like, that was with a GoPro, like, they could record the whales and the acoustics, so that says how active they are, vocalizing all the time and talking just like us, which we can try to understand them forever, but at least with humpbacks, we know they have social calls and feeding calls, and that's like the two big groups. So these that we were hearing over and over, that's definitely social calls. So up in BC where I was, we had these hydrophones, so like underwater microphones, and what we heard all the time was feeding calls, because they were feeding all the time. And you know they're feeding calls because you hear them and see what they're doing at the same time. So they're feeding and doing these calls, feeding calls. So what are whales? Please everyone talk, and this is gonna be like a conversation. So, giant mammals that live in the water. All right, they're big, giant mammals that live in the water. Okay, so those are already amazing answers. For example, is this a whale? I hear nose. Okay, this is a whale shark, but it's not technically a huge mammal that lives in the water, right? These here, also recorded by Yuval right here in La Fortuna, they're not whales either, right? They're movulas. So movulas and the whale shark, these are fish. And like we established, whales are mammals. Mammals, like differently from fish, they have uterus. That's where the veterinary degrees comes in. So we have placenta and you know, mammals, you have the babies inside of the uterus, not eggs like birds or fish. Mammals usually have hair, so that's another thing that mammals have. But on marine mammals, they kind of lost it. So this is a picture of a baby dolphin. If you zoom in, here you see some hairs. So they actually have some remainings of hairs and things like this when they are born, and so in the embryonic process that they have from back then when they were terrestrial mammals. We'll talk a little bit about evolution. Hopefully it's not too boring. Also mammals, we have warm blood. So in this case, a lot of it is how they remain their warmth, basically, how they thermoregulate in a really cold marine environment. So they have very complex ways of veins and arteries and just warmth exchange and thermoregulation that we'll also talk a little bit about. And they're just marine mammals. So they're mammals who have adapted to a marine environment. So they just are like us, but they live in a marine area. Polar bears, they're marine mammals. They're classified as marine mammals because they're mammals and they depend on the marine environment. Is it frozen? Yes, but it's still the ocean, and without it, they wouldn't survive. Manatees, for example, sea cows, are they called in English?
Sea cows.
Manatees. Also, these pictures are amazing, all from National Geographic. Also marine mammals. Leopard seals, like sea lions. I love this picture. This is Paul Nicklin. Also marine mammals. They depend on the sea to feed, to socialize, to reproduce, to mate. we are talking about marine environments, but here I don't know if you guys have heard of the river dolphins. There's also dolphins, so marine mammals that live in fresh waters. In this case, this is the Amazon River. There's very few species of river dolphins, but this is also called the pink dolphin. There was one in China, but went extinct, and now there's 2 in South America. So whales, we established marine mammals, and their cetaceans. We'll talk a little bit about evolution. Basically, 50 million years ago, they were terrestrial animals. They were ungulates. So their closest relative is the hippopotamus. And then they just were like, too many mammals in the land. We're going to go into the sea to find resources because
Can I ask a question? What is an ungulate?
Ungulate, good question, sorry. So they are cows, sheep, hippopotamus, giraffes, deer, all this group of mammals that are herbivores mainly. Well, not really. They can be omnivores like us, but yeah, they have different stomachs. So yeah, that would be the order and the classes and all this. That is a little complicated, but this one well, I was with Justin yesterday and we found it and we were like, is that how a whale looked?
Is it?
50 million years ago in the Eocene. I mean, that's the other thing it could be. Yeah. But no, so anyways, what I'm trying to go to is that we had a common ancestor 50 million years ago that decided to go into the water. And from there, we have now 93 species of cetaceans. Species as, you know, the last bit of the chain. Oh. So inside of these cetaceans, the 2 big groups are the baleen whales and the toothed whales. So the whales that have baleens, and then dolphins who have teeth.
What are baleen?
That's a really good question. This is a baleen. So basically, these 2 groups, so the baleen whales and the toothed whales, Odontocetes and Mysticeti. The baleen whales, humpbacks, for example, which this is not a humpback, but I would say this is a right whale. And they have these formations. It's basically like made out of keratin, so what our nails are made of or hair are made of. And they are big structures like plates that they use to filter the fish. So they are filter feeders. Not like toothed whales. This is a killer whale. Dead, but you can see the teeth. Okay, killer whales are called whales, but they're really dolphins. They're the biggest dolphins. That's just like a translation issue, I would say. But just so you see, baleen whales, we have 14 species, and then we have 79 species of toothed whales. So dolphins, beaked whales, pilot whales, porpoise. And we say 93, but like 2 years ago, a new species of big whale was described. So this number is not accurate. Like it grows and goes down and separates. And scientists can be, debating for forever, really. Yeah.
Definition of the difference between a dolphin and a whale, the teeth, as you're saying?
It's... Sorry.
Are you saying that the difference between a dolphin and a whale, by definition, is teeth?
No, there's different aspects to it. Like we were saying, like they go into different populations and orders and then families and genus. But the main criteria, yes, it would be teeth and baleens. But also it's different anatomical features, behaviors. Like I've had debates with people who had worked with orca for a long time, and they were very strict on that killer whales are whales. And no, they're dolphins, like they have teeth. And for example, sperm whales, here you see in this poster, they're looking towards the baleen whale. See, this all on the right are toothed whales, like so dolphins, odontocetes. But in the English language, a lot of these whales are called whales, like killer whales, sperm whales, pilot whales are these ones here. Beaked whales, not much known about them. We could do another talk about beaked whales. And then baleen whales here. So the big whales that we would picture in our head that do these crazy migrations. And inside of them, we have the humpback whales. So yeah, like dolphins usually stay in a more concrete area also. Whales do the big migrations. Yeah, there's different differentiations, but just so you know the two big groups where we would differentiate cetaceans.
That picture, which one was the humpback?
This. Oh, sorry. Good.
We
good
have a whale
question too.
sighting.
Amazing. Yeah, right next to the the sailboat. Yeah. That's amazing. It's so cool because they come really close. We'll also talk about that. Was one of the questions. Why do they come so close? So here, what's your guess? What's the humpback here?
I think the second.
The second from up?
Yeah.
This one? Do we agree?
No, wait. Oh, it's in the middle.
In the middle.
Yeah, in the middle with the white fin.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
Yes. This would be a fin whale. So that's the second largest animal on the planet after the blue whale. These were heavily hunted, so now they're facing, its critic. Whales, like humpback whales, yes, is this one. They're very classy because they have the long pectoral fins. These pectoral fins are like our arms. They're literally their hands. They just evolved to have these huge ones. So that's why these humpback whales can also maneuver so well and do these jumps, just because they're like acrobatic, kind of designed for it. Whales like these ones can try to jump, but if you see their flippers, they're tiny. So they try, they kind of but the humpbacks can go down and kind of like swim it and jump with their huge flippers. But yeah, great. So that's the humpback. Good job. From the baleen whales, I would say so. Yeah. I would have to think, but I would say so, yeah. Gray whales also jump. We had this. This question is really good. What do they drink, the whales? Can they drink? They're mammals. Can they drink water or Topo Chico? Yeah, Danny says they can drink. Why not? Can you drink, Danny, if you got lost in the middle of the sea with a sailboat? Can you drink marine water? You would drink marine water. Yeah, but to survive for 50 million of years. Yeah. And that's why Ayla should be the president of the Baja Station. Yes, they filter. That's why they have the baleens. Yeah, they filter the water from the fish they're feeding or the krill. The baleen whales. The dolphins just catch the fish, but they don't swallow the water. So they get their water, fresh water, from fish that can actually breathe water and produce water. But mammals, we have not gotten there yet. And that's why the bathroom are closed and the shower. Probably. Anyways, this is another lovely question by Will. Why are they so big? Will, have you researched into it? Okay. So last night, this is a really cool question. We could also go on and on about it. So I just copied and pasted from my anatomy class in college some pictures. And Justin here, I think, wanted to dig into this.
Of course, I just ate something.
Why are they
So
so
there was a
big?
bunch of different reasons, but one of them was about the surface area and heat retention. So as objects get larger, the ratio between the surface area and the volume are a factor off, so it's cubed versus squared factor. And so as an object gets larger and larger, it loses percentage-wise less and less heat. So they're underwater, they need to keep their body temperature up because they're mammals. So the larger they are, the more efficient it is.
That's basically it. Yes, it's a way of adapting to the marine environment too. Because here it's nice, but when you go up to Alaska, I mean, it gets chilly. So yeah, that's pretty much what they do. So the end point is to just, how do you say reserva, like have reserve, like a lot of fat, a lot of energy that they can, metabolize or transform into milk for the babies or into gas for going all the way up and down Canada.
Is that why they have the babies down here where it's warm?
Exactly, yes. They want to, waste or spend as little energy as possible. Don't we all? So, for example, this is a really good question. I mean, this is a really good picture about heat and thermoregulation. So you guys, if you have cut a whale in half, which please don't do, but doing the necropsy, you see the big fat layer that they have is basically like a wetsuit. In their meat, in their muscles, they don't have so much fat. They have some, but not so much. Most of it, they have reserves on their blubber. So the flippers, actually, they don't have any blubber. They're all cartilage. And so we call them thermal windows because that's where they have this complex system of veins and arteries, and they exchange temperature through the dorsal fin, the pectoral fins, and the caudal fins. So those don't have any blubber that is blocking this, heat transmission. So that's why they're big. Basically it's more efficient, and it's an evolutionary just adaptation to the heat, the marine environment, the cold waters, and energy reserves. Yeah, so thermal. And so are we all doing good? Is everyone following the the talk? Any questions that might pop up before we start digging into the magnificent humpback whales?
Can you talk? Oh, do you want to go first? Can you talk a bit about their migration patterns, or maybe you're going to cover that anyway? But you said they're big so that they can be up in the cold. But why even go to the cold as opposed to? It sounds like dolphins are smaller and maybe stay in warmer environments.
Yeah, dolphins definitely stay in more tropical and subtropical areas. Some toothed whales like belugas or narwhals, they're adapted anyways to be in the Arctic. But yeah, we're going to cover the migrations because that's always with how they communicate is like one of the big enigmas in science. Like there's not an easy answer, not only for humpbacks, but like birds, sea turtles, fish. But definitely their migrations is one of the biggest in the mammals. So we're definitely going to cover that. It's coming. And Ayla, let me... Espérate, que no te llega el sonido.
Speaking about size, where will the humpback whale be? Like in the middle or from the big ones?
Okay. Compared to other whales?
Yes.
Let me see if... I mean, we've seen them on the kayak, right? They're big. Like, they don't look that big when they're jumping here. But then you see them close, like, in proportion to us. They're big. Like, we're going to see here, it's also Vajuval, a baby and the mama. So babies can be 4 meters when they're born. I would say some of these whales, they're definitely born here. Maybe a month ago, now... these babies are probably a month old or 2, and they are already 4 meters. So you can see maybe I'm 162. I have the feet now. Also because I don't know in feet. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about the humpback whales, which are the kind of whales we see here. Like we talked, they're mammals, Artiodactyla, which are like from the ungulate, cetacean, baleen, and then the genus is Megaptera. Megaptera, they're really cool. Anyways, they're one of the most diverse in the oceans. So their distribution, you can see here, all the blue is where you can find humpback whales. So basically anywhere. Mediterranean, you can see is white. You could find whales in the Mediterranean before they were hunted to extinction. But now, yeah, now you don't. Sometimes, very rarely, but the rest of them, these are one of the whales that is more adaptive. They are really smart. They're very intelligent. They do this crazy communication and hunting and I don't know, they migrations. So they have been able to adapt to basically every corner of the oceans, which is what smart mammals do, just like us or wolves or mouse. So speaking about how big they are, like I was saying, the babies are 4 meters or 13 feet when born, and the adults can get to 16 meters, maybe even bigger. The blue whales, which is the biggest whale in the oceans, can get to 30 meters. The biggest ones, also before they were hunted, like the very old ones, we don't really even know how long they live, because that's another question. How long do they live? Well, we can estimate 80, 90 years, but no one has put a tag on a whale when it was born, and today is checking it. Like, yes, still has a tag, so it's 100 years old. It's estimations. And also, most of the whales, we don't even let them grow old because they die or we kill them. But anyways, not anymore, hopefully, at least in most of the countries. So they do to a mama whale to build a baby, so the gestation time, their pregnancy, is 11 months. So that takes a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, like we said, we're going to talk a little bit about acoustics, but their complex language. And then we were saying the long migrations, right? Where do they go? Where do they come from? And we're going to talk special about these whales because there's so many populations of humpbacks. That's another thing. We're in the Pacific. We also have the Atlantic ones. We have the North Hemisphere and the South Hemisphere. So there's probably like 7 populations. But also this is in debate because everyone wants to say, no, we have this genetic sample, so ours is different. They all mix. That's the thing, that you have a big biogenetic pool that everyone is mixing and going up and down.
We have a question here.
Pass a question.
And
Yes.
do they live in community?
That is a really good question.
Because I see always the dolphin always together, like
Yes.
till
Yes.
20,
Yeah.
even more sometimes. The
Yeah.
orcas, all the
Yes.
killer whales,
Mhm.
always go together too,
Mhm. Mhm.
and they hunt together and everything. But
Yes.
the whales,
Mhm.
1, 2, the mother and the
Mhm.
baby, but I don't see them together.
That's a really good question. So dolphins are definitely, like we said, they're smaller, so they depend more on the family, on the community to hunt, to migrate. They have to stay in a pack, because if not, one dolphin by itself. Orcas have one of the also most complex family structures and social structures. That is for another talk, because don't get me started with orcas. But humpbacks, yes, I mean, you definitely see nexus of moms and calves. So the relationship between the females and their babies is super tight because, like we said, 11 months of pregnancy plus keep the orcas away from my baby so they don't eat it. Plus the baby has to survive all these, hopefully not so much pollution and threats, but you know, you have to feed the baby and teach it how to swim and how to communicate and how to feed, how to hunt, how to survive by itself, how to do all these migrations. So it takes time. And then in the feeding grounds, they make groups to hunt together. So when they're going to feed, they all come together and they build like formations just to hunt. Because it's better to survive if we hunt all together than if you hunt by yourself. But only some populations have developed some feeding behaviors in certain areas, like in the north of Washington and in British Columbia and Alaska, all this in the Bering Sea. They do the bubble net feeding that we'll talk about. So this is, for example, only this population has learned how to do it and has taught the juveniles and the calves how to do it. So they go in packs, for example, here. When they come down to more tropical areas, Gio probably has also seen a lot of these behaviors more than me. They make social structures, but more like to mate. So the males will come together and try to, get the ladies, and they'll go after the humpback whales just to mate. You've seen it more than me. I'm waiting to see it, and sometimes we can see from here that you see very close to the beach, mom and calf, and then farther away, more in the open water, you see a lot of blows. So a lot of adult males, a lot of whales that are together, but farther away. So is that maybe that the males congregate and have like broad time more far away, and then the females and the babies come closer to the beach? How are you doing on time? Okay, not bad. So this is a very good map I found of
Can I
the
ask a question?
migrations.
Sorry.
Please.
Just relating to the babies in the groups. Do you know how long it takes for a mother to raise a calf before she can have another baby?
That is also a really good question. A lot of the humpback whales, they say they have a calf every 2 years. So they come here, they give birth, they do the migration up and down with this one calf once, and then the second year they probably mate, and so she has another year to the pregnancy, but you can't come back, give birth, and that the next year already get pregnant again, because you don't have enough energy to feed the baby, raise the baby, and also create another baby while doing all this. So every 2 years, I think. But that's also in the research.
Does that mean the calf, the 1-year-old calf, after the first summer in Alaska, does that calf come back with the mother, or does she stay up in Alaska on her own?
I would say so. I think they come with the mom. I'm not sure. I think so. Let's research into that. With drones, actually, they only put the drone on top of the well, and with the blow, they take DNA. Only with the blow and the drone. They put one of these crystals, and just with the blow, they collect that sample, and they can do DNA and know if that whale and that calf are coming together. Then that's the same whale. That would be cool. But also, that needs university people that can analyze all this DNA, or labs. So following migration patterns and behavior, this is most of these papers is this guy. I'll thank him in the end, but Urban, he's a whale scientist from La Paz. In the University of La Paz, they are directing most of the research with humpback whales here in Baja California Sur. And here you can see in this map is really nice. Here is San Jose del Cabo, and we're more like here, no?
Yeah, we're like here.
And so you can see in this area how much they concentrate. Like the pink area is like where they congregate the most. The pink dots are the moms with calves recorded in these years of study, which I think they were 7 years or something like that, and then just other whales without a baby. So they could be males. You can't know if they're males or females until you see the genital region. They don't have sexual dimorphism, so you can't really tell males from females. Females are a little bit bigger, but you can't really have a measurement. It's complicated. So unless you see an adult with a baby, you can say that's a female because it's with a baby. But if you see it by itself, you assume maybe it's a male. But anyways, here we also see like all the feeding grounds where they come from, these wells here to Baja California Sur. So it's very diverse. They come from the Bering Sea, Russia, Alaska, Canada, north of Washington State in the States. And they all spend here the summers in high altitudes. And then in the winter, they come to lower latitudes in the subtropics, places like Hawaii, Mexico, Central America. But we know they all spread out.
Wow, it's right where we are that is the highest concentration of whales all along the East Cape,
Yes.
and specifically within the East Cape where we are. It's interesting.
It is. That's why I'm here.
That was my main question.
Yeah.
It's like 2/3 come from Alaska to Hawaii, 1/3 here. But why they choose it? I don't know why. Like, are they not strong enough to get to the island? Were they born here before? Do they randomly choose depending how pregnant they are? Like, what makes them pick like the tip right there? For one, I just was. I mean, maybe we don't know.
I've got a theory on this. Is that if we can go back to the map, this is just a complete, guess. But if you look at a nautical map of the peninsula and you look at the ocean depths, it gets very deep very quickly all around the coast, except there's a little shelf that goes out 2 or 3 miles, literally where this pink area is, pretty much, just from just after San Jose to just north of here, where you have a depth of maximum 50 meters all the way up to 2-3 miles offshore, which means it's a big area of shallow water. And in the Caribbean, the main humpback whale winter mating and breeding ground is called the Silver Banks, north of Dominican Republic, which is a similar, very big area that's maximum 40 meters deep. But it's offshore, it's not on the edge of land. And that's where they gather. So I think they're looking for big areas where it's relatively shallow for safety. And yeah, that's why that's the only shallow area off the coast of the Baja Peninsula. So anyway, that's my theory.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When they're feeding, they're looking for very deep areas where the herring and the krill and the plankton is kind of moving in the summer. And they can just focus on feeding. But when they're focusing on socializing, on mating, on giving birth, nurturing, they prefer shallow waters, far away from predators and just other threats. So definitely that makes sense. That's why they go to Hawaii and Central America, so places close to the coast and continental platforms. So you can really see the difference. Someone also asked me, do they not feed at all here? I don't think they do.
Why they don't? I don't know.
It's kind of like when bears go into hibernation, they just feed all springs, all summer when there's actual food, and then they just keep all those reserves, all that food, all those fats that they gathered to rest or to go through the winter. So maybe they occasionally feed here. If we had, for example, a hydrophone that was recording the whole time, we could hear the calls and be like, oh, these are social calls. And if we heard feeding calls for some reason, we would be like, oh, weird, they're feeding. If we were here and we saw a whale coming up, they come up super fast with the open mouth. They open their mouth super big and they just go and feed like a bank of fish. If we saw that happening, so that's why research on behavior and ecology is important, because through seeing what they're doing, you can tell what they're up to. I've never seen it here. Here we see a lot of belly rolls, tail slabs, spectral slabs, breaches, tail lobes, head lobes. So a lot of social behaviors, but not feeding behaviors that I've seen. I haven't been here for super long.
Do you remember from the scientific research whether it says what their feeding patterns are in the mating grounds?
Yeah, the feeding grounds only that's why they're called feeding grounds, because they only feed in the north, and then mating grounds. No, and that's also what I wanted to say. Like if you go now to Alaska or BC and you see the first whales arrive to the feeding grounds, which is gonna be around April, May. When they're leaving, they go in different times. You see that they arrive super thin. Like you can see the skeleton, the spinal cord, and sometimes even the ribs. When the moms have been feeding and spending all this energy to feed the babies, you can even see the ribs. But then when they leave the feeding grounds around September, October, November, they go out super fat. So they come in here and they already like full and a big blubber. So they can slowly spending as little energy as you can, running away from all the humpback male songs and mating.
Is there a lot of plankton here? Is it possible they're eating up smaller things? No?
I don't think so. Do you think so?
No, there's generally less plankton in warmer water. Cold water is more productive for plankton.
Yeah.
That's why they don't feed here, I guess, because there isn't much of it.
Yeah, because there's definitely small fish, but I guess not so much. I haven't seen so much, and diving and snorkeling is more bigger fish. Sharks, rays, dolphins are mammals, but like bigger. Yeah.
And then when they're feeding, so they communicate. What are they saying? Like, come get food. We found some. What are they saying to each other?
10 minutes. Okay. Yeah. It sounds different. It's like for some whales you can go down into codes like sperm whales. But it's just a different type of call. So we had, yes. I'm not gonna sing whale now, but I wish I had some recordings. They go like, yeah, yeah, and it's like they constantly do the same thing. So they're communicating to each other what to do. For example, the bubble net feeding, like groups from 2 to 16 or 10, they go down, they start making circles and they blow bubbles. So they trap all the fish inside of this bubble net, and then they go all up at the same time, and they open their mouth at the same time, and they hunt all these little fish. Herring.
Out a couple of times and seen like not rings in the water.
Have you seen bubble rings here?
I don't know if it was a bubble, but it was like a circle in the water after they had like gone by.
Well, yes, I know what you mean, but that's more like the shade they leave when they go down. Yeah, no, these are, I don't have a picture here, but this is like actual, like big circles, not one bubble, like many that they go around. And if you saw from a drone shot, I have pictures actually. Yeah, sí, justo. And so they're communicating. What are they saying? Probably, I don't know, Jeff, go to the right, like you're fucking up the circle. Now we go up, open your mouths. So another question we had is how many whales are there here, right? So the humpback whale populations, like globally, are around 10,000 individuals. How do you count? Really good question. Mostly through like individual identification. Like you need to know like if you're seeing the same whale, because imagine being here and trying to count all the whales that we're seeing. I don't know if it's the same, that it just turned around, or this group you can count the blows, but mostly it's through photo identification. So different whales, you take different pictures to identify individuals. But in humpbacks you would take a picture of their caudal fin, so their tail, their fluke, when they go diving. So they all have different flukes. It's like our digital, like our fingerprints. They all have different flukes. You see some are completely black, some are completely white, some have 30% white, some have half of the fluke missing because a boat caught it or whatever. So that's how you identify. That's how you know if the whales are coming back to the same place every year. And if you see one of these with a calf, then you would just mark in the catalog. This one is a female, came with a baby this year. It comes back every year, or it doesn't, it just came 1 year. So through all this research, of course it has to be long-term, because if you just do it 1 year, it's like good, but you need to contrast all the data that you gather. So these people, really good article also, in these years, so from 2004 to 2011, they counted 2,700 whales that come here every year. That's a total of over 1,000 sightings, but of course every sighting you have to be taking the pictures. And just finishing and continuing talking about behavior and migration patterns, this is the first time I saw a humpback whale in 2019. And this is BC, so this is feeding grounds. This is north, almost to Alaska. A humpback whale breaching. So they also do these kind of behaviors in the feeding grounds. This is what I was talking about. This is the bubble net feeding. So they all come up at the same time with their mouth open. You can see the balloons. So these here are the balloons, the filter organs. This is 1, 2, 3 whales that I can see in this picture. But sometimes I've seen groups of 16 whales coordinating and doing this bubble net feeding technique. And you can see the big mouth. See, they have these pliegues. No sé cómo se dice. But the bottom of their mouth can, get super big, and then with the tongue they flush the water out and they filter it through the balloons, and then they just swallow all the herring they can find. And this is the best picture I have of here. But there's more in the camera, but this is just a baby. We see it here all the time, right? These rocks. Just a mama and the baby, so this is the behavior we would see here in the mating grounds. More social and mom and baby sharing knowledge, which is very important. These are matriarchal animals also, so they follow a matriline structure, and the females rule. And like in killer whale and many other smart mammals. We're not quite there yet. But yeah, this is a humpback with a baby. And I just wanted to say thanks to all these people for, doing the research and creating space. And thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.